Turn it up, swashbucklers. You're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 10. We're in the double digits. We made it. Yay! My name is Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show. And today, again, another little bit different kind of take on the whole pirate subculture. Today's guest is David Engel of Pirate School. And Pirate School is a variety program, a variety show about pirates for children. Now, if that makes you want to turn this episode off, I encourage you not to do that, because this came out even more interesting than I thought it was going to be. David is a really interesting dude. He's a classically trained actor. He's done theater. He's done films. He's done all that kind of good stuff, and yet he has chosen to work as a children's entertainer. So we talk about the sort of the way that children's entertainers are looked down a little bit in this country. We talk about the art of clowning and how it's very different here than it is in, say, in Europe, and why clowns are considered scary here in the U.S. for some reason. It's a really, really cool, interesting interview, so I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. And, of course, I got some cool music and comedy for you today. We got music from Groovy Judy, and we got comedy from JJ Whitehead. I'll tell you more about them later. Very cool stuff. I am a little exhausted today. It was a long, long weekend of more landscaping. We're still landscaping this ridiculous front yard of mine. Don't buy a corner lot house. That's what I'm telling you. That is my advice to you today, friends. Do not buy a corner lot house because the yard is immense. So we spent Saturday and Sunday all day. We spent about 14 hours all together destroying what was left and digging it out and trenching and then laying ridiculous amounts of cardboard as a mulch, as an under mulch, right? And then we started putting the mulch on top. I'll show people were looking at us so strangely as they were driving by my house, watching us water a yard full of cardboard as if it were a cardboard farm. Like we were going, all this cardboard is made in China. We're going to make domestic cardboard and make a mint. It looks ridiculous. I'll put a post. I'll put the picture on the show notes. You can see that on underthecrossbones.com. So we spent 14 hours doing heavy yard work, and I have learned once again that manual labor and I do not get along. It makes me so happy that I know how to do things like play a guitar and tell a joke and create a podcast. Things like that. Make it so that you listening, make it so that I do not have to do manual labor every day, and I appreciate that. So we spent that, and then on top of that, I had Comcast coming out to my house to fix some stuff with our internet that wasn't working, and I had to tear my office all apart to get that happening. So this morning, while I should have been doing this, finishing this podcast episode for you, I was instead putting my office back together. And you know what happens when you start sorting things, right? And then you start cleaning. And so I spent way too long cleaning up my office. Granted, that doesn't happen very often. And the fact that I spent the last hour and a half cleaning up my office, if you walked into it right now, you would still go, well, this looks like a disaster. What did you do? Surprisingly, a lot, but it still looks like a disaster in here. So that's anyway. So, so make sure you come to underthecrossbones.com. There's lots of cool extra stuff there. If you haven't picked up the Exquemelin book yet, it's free. You can get it on the website. And keep leaving us the nice reviews and ratings on iTunes. We're at iTunes. We're on Stitcher now. And I have set up the social profile, so you can find us at facebook.com/underthecrossbones. You can find us at twitter.com/undercrossbones. No because the name was too long for Twitter. You know Twitter. They like short. They like short and concise, and I've never been good at that. All right, friends, I'm going to stop yapping now, and we're going to get into this great interview with David Engel. Here we go. I know a bit about what you do, but explain to my listeners what it is that you do.
All right. Well, my name is David Engel. I'm the creator and producer and performer of Pirate School. It's a solo swashbuckling vaudeville show that tours theaters and festivals and corporate events nationwide. It's a variety show at its heart that empowers kids and teaches them the finer points of mischief, teaches them how to be good pirates with special effects, sound effects, music, magic. There's bubble play, eccentric props, and basically at its heart, it allows them to live the dream the golden age of the swashbuckler.
That's great. So kind of what we were talking about before we were on the air is one of the running themes of this show that I've discovered in interviewing a lot of people is that a lot of people are taking the mythos of the real pirates, these murderers and criminals and things like that, and changing that into something that is good for charity work, is good for teaching children things, and basically just turning them into good characters. And how did you arrive at that yourself to teach children that way?
Yeah, the sodomites of the sea in front of 6-year-olds. Great. Well, this is an incredible question, and it's something that I have. I've had the great joy of talking to the head of Disney Worldwide about how they deal with the realities of pirates in the more fantastical realm, and of course Disney has helped the resurgence of pirates. But I've come up with my own strategy or my own theory in 26 years of being a pirate, and I figure with the statute of limitations, performing as a pirate for 26 years makes me a real one. Well, first and foremost, of course, if I'm a professional, full-time family entertainer, and all my work, is I always tell my clients it's non-violent, it's non-gender specific, and of course, besides a couple historical female pirates, the real pirates were quite gender specific and quite violent.
Sure.
I say that I sidestep the realities, the dark, dangerous, murderous realities, and go right for that golden heart that all of us, from elders to us adults and children, hold this idea of the idealized swashbuckler, the buccaneer of old. There's a core, a kernel that everybody, I think, connects to, which is this sense of adventure and questing and what's over the horizon. Basically being independent and freewheeling and in charge of your own destiny. And that is exactly what kids, that's their engine. Kids want independence. They want freedom. They're constantly breaking rules to push the limits, the boundaries. And of course, they're curious and they want to see what's over the horizon, or what's inside that box, or what's, on the other side of that, barbed wire wall. So kids, I always say, are halfway to being pirates already. And so I think that's why, that's where I come in. The idea of the modern idea of the golden age of the pirate, is formed by a lot of things, but most specifically, Barrie's Peter Pan, which like Hallmark cards did to Valentine's Day, Peter Pan and of course Treasure Island did to the reality of what the pirates were, and helped to change, I think, society's impression of those pirates. And of course, then the golden age of the Hollywood swashbuckler with Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone, that just took that idea and idealized it even further. And then, of course, in the modern age, with all the Disney work, it cemented this image of the boisterous, jovial, harmless, but slightly dangerous pirate that resembles nothing like those murderers and sodomites of old. So that's what I do. I sidestep the reality and go right for this incredibly engaging, captivating essence. And the kids flock to it, girls and boys alike. My shows, I call them action clown shows, and the kids are up and down on their feet. It's very active. And what I say to clients and to parents is that I hearken back to those golden days of backyard play, of the play that we used to do in what I guess we used to call the great outdoors, right? And nowadays, kids are so overly scheduled and hovered over that this sense of of adventure and play and getting scrappy in the dirt and really using their strength and their skills isn't really promoted. And so in Pirate School, my show, and the different arts and education components of Pirate School, I think that's why it's made it so popular, because it's got those. It's what we would want to do. It's a show that I wish I saw or I experienced when I was 5 to 6 years old and 7 and 8 and 10.
Sure, yeah, I agree with you. I am as much of an indoor pet as it comes, and even I played outside more as a kid than they do now. And I see kids now that are just they're attached to their iPad via headphones, and they look
Yep.
at and their face doesn't even come up. And
Yep.
so I think that kind of stuff is really great. And I love that your message is have an adventure, don't kill anything.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. I do. There's my character, Billy Bones, and pardon my apologies to any aficionados out there. We know that Billy Bones, ironically, is like the ultimate horrible, drunkard, merciless character in Treasure Island.
Right.
But I have to say, like 26 years ago, when I was rushing out the door for my first birthday party, I was like, oh my God, I need a name. And I thought of the Muppets and the Billy Bones. And I was like, I'll just use Billy Bones. And of course it stuck. So, my show is crazy and original, and it's got original music and sound effects, but the name is definitely not so well thought out.
I was noticing on your website that you figured a way around the Billy Bones thing, and you play the character as the grandson of Billy Bones from Treasure Island.
Oh, I guess maybe I don't know if I ever mentioned that, but if I did, that's a great idea.
Okay,
I'll steal it from you.
It's
yes,
on your
indeed.
website. Yeah.
Yes, oh, that's hilarious. All right, well then I guess I did write that. So yes, the great grandson of the original Billy Bones, and he's reformed. But my character is indeed an amalgamation of these two worlds, actually.
Sure.
Because kids love dangerous things. They love gooey, nasty, smelly things. They love things that scare them a little bit, but that they know are ultimately harmless. And so Billy Bones, my character, is indeed a pirate clown. But he's irascible, and I'll have to say, the meaner I get, the more gruff and foolish I am, the funnier it is. And so I have my costume and my character have authentic qualities to them, but they also look outlandish and slightly like a clown. I mean, I have reenactor sort of garb, but I also have materials and fabrics that are professional grade costuming, but that allows me to do like 250 shows a year without dying of heat exhaustion. My bangles, I have they call me the Mr. T of Tortuga. Sometimes I have a chest full of about 10 pounds of bling, but those things come from all these different places I've been across the world, in China and the Caribbean and Europe. People give me items and such, and I have this crazy patchwork quilt of cool details that the kids love. And then, of course, I also wear some makeup. I'm not a reenactor.
Uh-huh.
I'm a full-time professional entertainer.
Right.
So my look it actually confuses a lot of the reenactors. That's a whole other story. But there is a huge, incredible world out there of pirate reenactors, which I interact with when I'm hired to do these festivals. But it's something that I admire and respect. I come at this world, this pirate world, from a different angle, and they don't get it. They're like, wait a minute, you've got a red nose, sort of a makeup red nose, and this crazy mustache that's painted on, that's sort of askew, and but your other stuff at school and your cutlass and everything, like, what's your deal? And I was like, well, this is my profession. I don't just do it on the weekends. It's my living.
Right. I think with anything, there's always going to be traditionalists who don't like to see a different take on whatever it is. I run into the same thing doing comedy and music and everything else. And There's always those people that go, no, you can't do that. And I go, well, why not? Why can't I do that?
Yeah, and that's the best part, because when I'm hired by these pirate festivals or seafood festivals or maritime festivals, first the reenactors sort of begrudgingly accept me, and then when they see the power of this clown act, this sort of variety vaudeville act, and they see, what I've wrought over, I dare to say almost 3 decades of it, then they're like inviting me for rum and stew, at their campsite after hours.
So let's go back a little bit. I want to find out how you got here. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up. I know you've studied a lot of acting. Give me that story.
All right. Well, yeah, I got bit by the acting bug. Well, I grew up in Evanston along the shores of Lake Michigan, just bordering Chicago. And I grew up with the lake, which is an inland ocean, and I was lucky enough to go to a camp that taught sailing and such, and water sports. So I started sailing at an early age, and I was one of those kids, the latchkey kids that would play in the dirt till past sundown. And then when I got bit by the acting bug very early on, Jeremy Piven and John Cusack were we grew up together. We were neighbors. And Jeremy Piven's parents ran an incredible youth acting program that actually formed a lot of people's careers over the years. And so with that, we worked with Story Theater and theater games that precursed the Second City and Saturday Night Live sort of sketch comedy. So we were doing a lot of comedy with mime, like reeling in a fish or drying dishes. So I got this weird, I was like, mime, what is this? As an 11-year-old. So that got me interested in these two worlds of the legit acting realm and this vaudeville, troubadour, mystical clown world. So I started to crash festivals as a juggler and a bad mime, and then graduated high school and toured Europe as a 19-year-old, just sort of hitchhiking around to all these great pitches of Europe, where street performers ruled, and hung out with incredible people, learned a lot, performed, all over Europe. And then I came back to Evanston and kept moving in these two directions. The acting and the clowning was taught stage combat by an incredible mentor, David Woolley, in Chicago. He's a fight master with the Society of American Fight Directors. And I found this aptitude for sword play and fisticuffs. And I was a classically trained actor from Columbia College in Chicago. But I kept going back to Europe, doing street theater, went to school in France for a year. And then, like I mentioned, I sometime in those first year or so of pre and post graduation from college, I was acting, I was fight directing, I was a waiter like us all, and then I decided to work for the hardest audience known to man, the birthday party audience,
right?
And that's where this pirate was born, using all the skills, and then from there it just kept going, snowballing. Chicago was a hotbed of theater and circus arts melding in the 1990s. I was working all around, going back to Europe, doing classical theater, TV, film, and my vaudeville stuff. So the clowning kept paying the rent as well as acting, and I was a full-time performer. And then Pirate School begat Jedi Academy, Wizard Academy, all these different shows. But Pirate School is still my signature show, and it kept evolving. And the venues started to get bigger, and I started to move further and further afield. And then I moved to New York in 2001, actually just a couple days before 9/11. And Oh, and then I don't know. That started a whole nother realm of and another territory. So I was working in regional theater, and the pirate school just kept getting more and more popular. So much so that I let the legit acting, the theater and the Shakespeare and TV and such, fall to the wayside. And now I'm full-time, I've been full-time variety performer. And I do about 250 shows a year. Like I said, I just came down from 81 shows over the summer.
That's crazy.
But it beats working for a living.
Sure, absolutely.
It feels like work. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. Because I mean, when people think of birthday party clown, for lack of a better term, people always think of that as a job on the way to something else, or Christopher Titus. I don't know if you've ever heard his bit about playing Darth Vader at a children's birthday party only one time. It's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But people always think of that as a job on the way to something else. And I think it's interesting that you came into it sort of sideways, where you went, oh, okay, there's all this other neat stuff, but this is what really is sort of fulfilling everything that you wanted between mime and street performing and serious acting and everything else.
Yeah, and look, I have to say, clown in general is a 4-letter word in America. You go to Europe, Russia, you go to even in Asia where I perform. When you say you're a clown, people respect that.
Sure.
In America, it's a 4-letter word, and of course, there are so many different types of clowns. There's many types of clowns as there are types of lawyers. I happen to be more of what they call an eccentric clown, a little bit more like Mr. Bean, with a little bit more makeup and crazy costumes. And yes, it's an odd stigma, and of course, for good reason. There's a lot of scary clowns out there. I worked, and it's interesting because it's one of those professions where people think, oh, I can put on a red nose and get in front of a bunch of kids and be a clown, but it's not. It's an art form. It's an art form that actually evolved lockstep with acting back in ancient Greece. The clown is there's a lineage of truth tellers and shaman and the storytellers in the cave would because as humans, if you make people laugh, they're much more human. They're much more apt to interact and to be pleasant with their families and their kids. It's actually a noble lineage of the truth tellers, the jesters, and the court fools. The emperor has no clothes. But it's strange. It's even more strange when you get to internet dating, which I'm doing, and then you come to the place where you tell people, "Yeah, I'm a clown, but I do make over $100,000 a year as a clown. So come on, people, let's get real." Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I used to do a lot of private events, birthdays, and I love them because they're so immediate, and you're in the child's inner sanctum, their home or someplace, and it is so important. It's such a great experience for the kids, and I still do them. I have reduced my birthday parties only because now I'm touring more to theaters and festivals and to be frank, more larger ticket items. But I still try to do in my stage shows, and I think I'm pretty successful in what I did in my birthday parties, where we get the kids back into that creative, dramatic, magical, dreamlike play space. Mm-hmm. And with the theaters, and it's also great is I can also work intergenerationally. So I have the parents, the grandparents, the cool aunts and uncles. I have them interacting with the kids, and the kids get to see their grandpas and grandmas, jutting their chins up and putting their hands on their hips, jaunty angle, and all my shows we have a grandiose sea battle at the end, so everybody gets to take part in this wild fracas, of course with their imaginary swords, those swords we all have on the end of our index fingers. And so yeah, it's a pretty awesome sight. One thing that keeps me going is when I'm standing in the wings and I'm listening to the audience, getting riled up. And I hear the kids in the first rows, and I realize, it's like that. That's the heart. That's why I woke up.
Mm-hmm.
To hear that excitement, and to know that they're gonna live the dream.
Right. That's so great. And I mean, it's so much of the same thing about why any performer performs. I mean, I get the same thing. There's no kids in my audience because that would be completely inappropriate. But although I have played for kids, and it's always interesting. Oh man, the other day I got a gig offer. They needed a comedian for a birthday party, ages 12 and under, and I was like, that is such a bad idea. You have no idea how bad an idea that is. But
give them my number.
Yeah, right. I absolutely should. And but back to the clowning thing for a second. I have great respect for clowning, and that happened a few years ago when my girlfriend and I were in San Francisco, and we were looking for something to do that we had never done before. And we found they were having the graduation show at the San Francisco Clown College, because of course San Francisco.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, of course San Francisco has a clown college, and
right.
And we went to this graduation show, and we were blown away at the skill that these people possess. I mean, in mime and in juggling and in unicycling, and I mean, it was so far above what I expected it to be. It was amazing. So clowns, clowns really are an amazing art form that most people just don't get. Like you said, they respect it more in Europe and things like that, and here they need some education in clowning.
Well, you know what? Can I give you my 30-second reason why people think clowns are scary?
Sure.
Well, maybe it'll be 45 seconds. But basically, people, America, the world, listen up. Because there is a reason, and it's pretty lame. And quite often people will say they're scared of clowns only because Hollywood tells them to be. Back in the days, early circus was only a single ring, and the single ring was the diameter that a horse can canter comfortably in. So it was a very intimate experience, sort of like the original Cirque du Soleil or like the Big Apple Circus out in the East Coast in New York. It's a single ring, so everybody's close to the action, and the clown, the white Auguste clown, was the boss, basically. Back in the 1800s, when Ringling Brothers started up in America, they thought, why keep it at one ring? Let's make 3 rings. Let's get 3,000 people in this tent instead of 300, and make some money. So the clowns were relegated from being the star of the show to helping change the sets and doing interstitials. And they had to paint their faces in garish ways so that their expressions could read way in the back of the tent to the 3,000th person. So when in the 60s and the 70s, when clowning started to come back into the mainstream and into the house, into these birthday parties, the clown's makeup didn't change, but their physical proximity to people did. It got closer. And so, of course, these scary-looking faces, and of course, as humans, we're already we're wary of people behind masks. We don't like the unknown, so there's an immediate connection. And of course, then yes, there are some really there have been some really nasty crimes committed by people in clown suits, and then Hollywood took over with some of these horror films, and you get this challenging cocktail that you have to sort of navigate your way out of. People, I've known an incredible world-class clown who was speaking on a national morning, TV show, and when the cameras were off, the host was saying, well, they were having this great conversation. He was in his clown makeup. They were having this lovely conversation about clowns and how much this newscaster loves clowns and this and that. The cameras turned on, and the first thing this newscaster says is, "Oh, I'm scared of clowns."
Oh, jeez.
And totally threw this incredible performer for a loop, because this newscaster was just pandering to this sort of stereotype. Anyway,
right.
That was more than 45 seconds.
That's okay. So why do you think that frame of reference never took hold in Europe and other places?
Oh, well, because it first of all, there are less people doing better work. There, it is not a. I think in Europe and other places, the performing arts are seen as a gift, as a rarity. The conservatory programs out there are very competitive. In America, anybody and their uncle can wants to be an actor or a performer or a clown, and God bless us all. We have the freedom to do it. I'm not saying no, but what happens in Europe is that there are just less people, and it's more of a controlled environment, and I don't know. I've always found, because I've performed several times in China, performed in Malaysia and Europe quite extensively, and the Caribbean. I mean, there's just a higher degree of respect. I don't know why. I think it's just the difference of culture.
Uh-huh. I think, I mean, that's I've played the UK just a very little bit about 10 years ago, and I'm trying to get back over to Europe to do some dates. And that's the one thing that I always hear about Europe and even shows in the Middle East and Asia and things like that, where they just go, the audiences are more into it. They're more respectful of the performers. They appreciate it more, the art form in general.
It's interesting, right? Yeah, it's very funny talking about like just audiences in general. Having done this now for 26 years as a entertainer, and that straddles the computer age, basically.
Right.
I mean, I remember going to gigs with a map in my hand, and
oh yeah,
change in my pocket to pull over and use a payphone if I got lost.
Yep.
And of course, I mean, last night I had two girls in the front row of my show texting on their cell phone, which is a real anomaly for me. Usually I've got to chastise the parents, but I see a degradation in a certain attention and a certain gracefulness in the American public. And again, I like all variety performers, we deal with it, or we have bits and routines to pull them in line. I'm lucky because my show is quite boisterous and interactive, so like the kids never get a real chance to relax or to flag. But yeah, I have this byline that I say my work is I'm working to engage the increasingly distracted youth of America. But that was funny. I was like, really? You're on a cell phone? All right. And so of course I stole their cell phones.
Nice. That's great. I want to find out what you did with the cell phones.
Oh yes, I stole them. Oh yes, I pillaged them, and I took many selfies on them.
As every good pirate would do.
Yeah, there's no need to chastise an audience or make somebody feel embarrassed. But I'm very much of the camp that I have a responsibility as an entertainer. I'm on a soapbox. I've got the eyes and the hearts of thousands of kids and adults too. And I'm not, I think this is real vital and real valid. Just like Santa Claus, if someone's playing Santa Claus, they have a responsibility to maintain that dream for these kids. And as a performer, a lot of my show is goofy and nonsensical. There's scatological humor in it, and it's there's stuff that I know is going to get a laugh. But I also realize that what I do is important because I have the hearts and the eyes of these kids. So there are pro-social values woven into all my shows. Good behavior, thoughtful behavior, cooperation, togetherness, and also sort of this community. I mean, I make the kids look around because a pirate crew was made up of people from all nationalities.
Sure.
And I have the kids look at each other, and I say, you might not know each other now, but you could be best friends for life. at the end of this show. We're all part of this crew together. I use this analogy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to swagger out of here feeling, more bold and courageous and hopefully better people. I mean, I don't say that, but that's my goal. In fact, that's why I started a fair amount of arts and education offshoots of Pirate School.
Uh-huh.
I have my family show, which is the pure nonsensical pirate escapade,
Right.
and I have 3, bordering on 4 arts and education shows. Because again, the pirate theme galvanizes these kids. They love it, and if you can get them laughing, then you can lay in important, vital lessons. So I have Pirate School, The Science of Pirates, which is my newest show. It's science, curiosity, and STEM curricula with this nautical twist.
Okay.
And I have what they call a character education show. It's an anti-bullying show called Pirate School. Follow your compass. Now, before you start rolling your eyes, America, it's important. And schools are really these are become very popular shows. They'll bus kids into performing arts centers, or I'll go directly to schools. And the Follow Your Compass basically liberates kids from the fear of bullying by taking the status from bullies, by promoting social courage and empathy among my crew. So if everybody feels like they can stand up for each other, that if a bully or somebody showing thoughtless behavior is stood up to by a group of kids instead of just allowing one kid to cower, then we're doing something right. And so that's the Follow Your Compass. And then I have like a reading literacy empowerment show called Pirate School, Ahoy Buccaneers. It's for parents as reading partners. And then a water conservation and litter abatement show called Water Everywhere.
That's fantastic. All of those sound really...
It's my empire.
Those all sound really great. I mean, because a lot of the bullying and the socialization type of things are, I mean, I had fantastic parents that taught me a lot of that stuff, and I was able to deal with it and come out of it a fairly well functioning adult, despite the fact that I'm a comedian. And but I teach music to children too, and I find that a lot of them just don't get those things from their parents for whatever reason. Either the parents aren't thinking of it, or the parents didn't learn those lessons themselves, or something like that, and they need that sort of outside source to help them with that stuff.
Yeah, and we can always use an extra set of eyes or an extra set, a little backup. And I think for the schools and the theaters that hire me, they're excited about the show because, look, I'm not teaching them specifically. I'm reinforcing what parents and educators should already be teaching them. I've got their, like I said, their spirits engaged, and I heard from educators, and parents years later saying, the kids are still repeating some of the stuff that you said. They still remember, and they shake their fists like, damn you, Billy Bones, because the kids are still, they retain the messages in a different way and possibly even longer. Again, I don't, not through this
medium. And I think a lot of that is probably because as a creative professional, you're able to put those things in a way that makes them memorable, to give them a hook of sorts that parents, and parents are just not equipped to do that in general unless they're creative professionals as well. But I mean, that's part of our job, is to make a line memorable so that people will repeat it later, and you can do that because that's your skill. Yeah,
and parents, they're not packing a swivel gun and a cutlass. Right. Those things help. Those things make it memorable. And it's funny. I mean, Pirate School gets really loud. I mean, the kids sometimes I'll have. I mean, really, because it's a call and response show. It's totally participatory, and there's a lot of verbal action. And there are times it's hilarious. I wonder if my hearing is affected, because I've had parents have to hold if they have an infant with them or something at the show because their older kids are in the front row. Like, I see them, they're like covering their kids' ears, or sometimes like even walking out of the space because it just gets too boisterous. It's hilarious.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, I think kids need a place to do that kind of thing anyway. When it's constantly here, shut up and sit down and stare at this screen. They need some place to be loud. I think that's great.
Yeah, and I was doing a big showcase. I go to these conferences to promote Pirate School at theaters around the country, and sometimes help showcases. And so I was at this one major, 2,000 seat auditorium, and they filled it with junior high school kids, which really aren't my target audience. They definitely are rolling their eyes.
Sure.
But they were having fun, and apparently these bookers, the people buying the shows, came up to me afterwards, and they said the second balcony, like the two balconies, were flexing like 2 to 3 inches.
Oh my gosh.
Like you could feel them moving because of all the kids, because they were up doing the sea battle at the end, moving and grooving. They were like, if that's not testament to, the power of pirates, I don't know what is. And it gave a free seismic test to the theater.
Right. That's fantastic. Well, David, this has been really great. I have one last question before I let you go.
Sure.
I was watching your demo video on your website, and you have the talking skull. Which is a drawing of a talking skull, which I thought was so cool. I've never seen that before. Will you let me in on how that works?
Yes, it is pretty fun. It's a little dry erase board that you draw on, and the bit is the little history of the Jolly Roger pirate flag, and the skull that I draw does animate and comes to life and tries to steal the show, and then I erase him, of course. And so you want to know the secret. All right, well, Phil, America, can you keep a secret?
Yes.
Well, so can I.
All right.
Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, it's definitely fun. But, look,
that
if you guys want to take a look, by all means, please visit me at mypirateschool.com. There's some fun stuff for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's mypirateschool.com. And if they want to kind of dive into everything that you've done, you have davidengel.biz too, right? Yes,
that's DAVIDENGEL.biz.
Fantastic. Well, David, this has been really fun, man. I'm glad I got a chance to talk to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your interest in the sort of a national pirate scene and my place in it.
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, I hope we can talk again soon.
All right, tally-ho. Fair winds.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you go, friends. That was my interview with David Engel of Pirate School. See, way more interesting than you probably thought children's entertainment was going to be, especially listening to a pirate podcast. So if you haven't, make sure you come to underthecrossbones.com. Check out the show notes. I'll have a link to David's site. You got to see the talking skull illusion. It's really cool. I don't know how it was done. It's really great. But he puts on a very entertaining show. If you have kids, check him out. If you don't have kids, slip in and check him out. It's very entertaining stuff. So, I will be back on stage this week. I forgot to mention earlier. I took a week off after the World Series of Comedy because coming back from that, I don't want to hear any comedy for a week. But I was working on some other creative projects and things like that. This week, however, I will be back on stage in San Francisco, California on Wednesday, October the 7th at Club Wazima. It's a new venue for me. Not sure what to expect, but that's Club Wazima in San Francisco, California, this Wednesday, October the 7th at 9:30 p.m. So come and check that out. Let's get into some comedy and some music. We got comedy today from J.J. Whitehead, who's a comedian that I met at the World Series of Comedy just recently. Very funny dude with a really unique delivery. It's very different. He doesn't sound like your average comic. And the bit I picked out for you today, I think really goes with the whole theme of today's show, children's entertainment. You're going to dig it. It's hilarious. And after that, we got a song from Groovy Judy called Be Who You've Got to Be. Also, which I think very well fits the theme of today's show. Judy and I go back so far. We go back probably 15 years at this point, and she is a really unique performer who definitely lives the message of this song. There are a lot of people that look at her strangely, but man, she puts on a heck of a show, and she writes a good jam, and you're gonna totally dig it. And she's a really good friend of mine. She's so fun. If you ever get a chance to see a Groovy Judy show, do not miss out on that chance. Go see her. So here we go. Comedy from J.J. Whitehead and a song from Groovy Judy.
I think I admit to you all, I'm in a hard place in my life because it's weird. Maybe it's been in my 30s and stuff, but for the last 10 months of my life, I've been waking up with these voices saying, Jay, you're a little bit behind schedule. You should be a dad by now, right? And that freaks me out because I hate children. To have this kind of voice in my head. So every morning I have to wake up and turn off the recording device that my girlfriend has left behind. My day. No, it's all in my head. It's all in my head. I can't deal with these thoughts. I think they get away with too much. My brother's got one of these things. My brother's got one of these things. He thinks she's an angel. I think she gets away with too much. I think she was an angel when she was 1. When she had fear for everything in the world. It's when a child is beautiful. She's 3 now. She owns him. I got into a great debate with him on her first birthday, because he wanted to throw her a birthday party. And I was saying, she's not going to remember anything, bro. She's 1. She's going to remember. What are you doing? Turns out I might have been wrong. Because on this first birthday, he bought her a birthday cake shaped like Elmo from Sesame Street. And he presented her the birthday cake, and she was in her high chair, and Faith starts freaking out, thinking, flinging peas and carrots everywhere, and thinking, oh my God, Elmo's here. And then my brother got out the knife. Started cutting into the cake. Couldn't stop her crying for 24 hours. It's amazing, man. So, I guess maybe I was wrong. She's not going to remember that it was her first birthday, but I think she will remember that her father killed Elmo.
feels good. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. 'Cause no matter who you are, oh yeah, you're a star. Do what you love to do. Don't let anybody tell you nothing else. Nothing else. giver, a taker, a mover or a shaker. Do it if it feels right. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Be who you've got to be. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul. Be who you've got to be. Be who you've got to be. Set your soul free. Come on.
And there you go. Thank you once again for listening to Under the Crossbones. I really appreciate it. Keep leaving us those iTunes reviews, Stitcher things. Keep listening. Download, subscribe, tell your friends. You are the one that keeps this show afloat, and I appreciate it. You heard JJ Whitehead and his comedy bit about Elmo. You can find him at jjwhitehead.net. You also heard Be Who You've Got to Be by Groovy Judy. And you can find her at groovyjudy.com. Definitely do that. Come to underthecrossbones.com. I'll have links to all the pertinent websites. You can see a picture of my cardboard farm, all the show notes, all that kind of cool stuff. Make sure to tune in next week. I've got a very special guest for you. We're going to go way back in history, but way back in internet history, into the early days of pirate podcasting and radio and pirate music on the internet with Bilge Monkey. It's going to be a great interview. You're going to totally dig it. So thanks again. Keep leaving those reviews, and I'll see you at underthecrossbones.com. Until next week, friends.